Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Cloud Wars Live, where we're exploring not only the digital revolution that's changing everybody's lives, but this wild mix of digital revolution and COVID-19 pandemic and all of the things that have come from that, the change in how we live, how we work, how we play, how we try to move forward in this crazy world today. So we've got one of our great guest speakers. It's Peter Stubbe from ETR. This is Stubbe on spending. This is Peter's back for his third session with us here at Cloud Wars Live. And Peter's company has 10 years worth of data that tracks what's going on with some of the securities markets in the big tech companies and offers some very interesting perspectives on past, current, and future buying tendencies. Peter, welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. It's great to have you.
Thanks so much, Bob. It's good to see you again. And I want to give you a quick kudos for all the work that you've been doing over the course of the past earnings season. It's been very helpful for myself and my peers in the office. So thank you for your contributions there. And I'm excited to provide you guys a few updates today.
No, it's Peter, great. That's good to hear. You've been on the mark with a number of these things. And certainly I know coming in today, you mentioned that so much action in the cybersecurity space, even if you go back to, February, January, when, before the whole pandemic hit, there was a lot of interest there. And now since then, you've said there continues to be, a heightened amount of interest there. So tell us a little bit about what's going on that side of things.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. So, one thing that has been a consistent theme throughout the course of the large-scale CIO surveys that my company conducts, as well as the interviews that I lead with the CIO respondents, is that cybersecurity has just continued to increasingly be top of mind for enterprises globally, and especially large enterprise. I think that has been continuously or altered or even accelerated in the same type of tune or the same side by side as the movement towards digital platforms, digital transformation, and the cloud. So there's a lot of things to keep in mind. It's very important to stay safe when you're when you're moving to a work from home or remote infrastructure. I think that it's worth bringing up a few of the companies that may be benefiting from that. You've already seen it in a few of their reports as well. There's three basically areas of cybersecurity, and I'll pull up a visual because I know that he always likes the visuals of ETR surveys. So what I've done here on the screen is isolate all the respondents to our April 2020 survey, those that cited they are either intending to adopt or increase their spend on AWS, Google, or Azure. So the primary three or the main three public cloud providers. What is the strength of their coinciding spend within information security? And I've highlighted some of the companies that I'd like to talk about today. There's three, as I mentioned, there's three specific areas. Access management. So when you think about a remote workforce and having to manage those individuals, whether it be give them access or remove their access in the case of furloughs or in the case of unfortunate laying off of employees, it's very important to be able to do that in an automated and quick fashion. So there's a handful of vendors that are helping with that, but I'd like to point out three specifically that look very good in our survey data. And we've also heard in interviews to be great solutions. That would be SailPoint, Okta, and CyberArk. And the next area would be your network security. So as things move to the edge, or as computing moves to the edge, there are companies that are benefiting from that as well. These folks more traditionally fall under content delivery and networking, but they also have cloud security solutions, and those are named CloudFlare and Fastly. They compete with a more traditional company called Akamai. And what our research and what our surveys is telling us is that there is an increasing number of people that are moving towards those platforms versus the Akamai or more traditional CDN platform. Lastly, a company that I'll highlight is really focused specifically on cloud security and cloud access, and that would be Zscaler. The company has performed especially well within our survey, and notably with those that are either adopting or increasing their spend on these public cloud providers. So the last point that I'll make in terms of what I've brought up on the screen here and the response to the surveys is that you're either seeing a higher overlap of people with these public cloud providers or stronger spending intentions, or both. That's why I've highlighted them. And as you know, how I've explained, Bob, we're very keen on those two metrics in terms of understanding and analyzing our survey response. It's, are there more people citing the vendor, and are they citing more positively? And that's, in this case, that's what's happening within cybersecurity for those vendors, for the folks that are increasingly moving to the cloud.
Peter, are you able to blow up the bottom right portion there of that shot? Because I know you've got some great data in there from ETR, and I just want to give everybody a little better look at that.
Yeah, of course. So this, obviously information security is a very broad sector, so there's a lot going on here. But what you can see is basically the response to recent surveys. So if you're seeing a delta between the vendor that you're isolating and looking at, that means that year over year, or since the survey was conducted last, there's been a acceleration in the overall strength of spending intentions. For instance, I will pull up, it looks like Fastly just has high. Let's see here. SailPoint is a great example of that. We have the gray bar, it being the indications of last year, and then the yellow bar being the best comparison, year over year comparison. And you notice the delta there. That's very impressive. That's what we value, and that's what we like to see in terms of acceleration towards spending with that company.
So Peter, if you think about it, over the last 8 or 10 weeks, we've heard, whether it's CIOs, CTOs, or other high-level IT decision makers and business leaders who are involved in these purchasing decisions. Some have said, hey, my company's in an uncertain revenue situation. We're going to readjust our priorities for spending. It looks from what you've described here as if cybersecurity continuously makes the cut for what continues to get the funding.
Absolutely. I don't think I could put it better myself, Bob. That is an area of priority pre-COVID, and now post-COVID, it is something that has continued to stay top of the list. Obviously, we've talked in my past conversation with you about cloud acceleration and moves towards digital transformation efforts that were already in place and seeing an acceleration there. The areas that are maybe being cut back are the projects that are related to maybe analytics or kind of the cool, nice to have new tools, things that make areas of the enterprise look prettier. But really the primary focus for CIOs today is keeping the lights on and accelerating things that make their business better.
Peter, just on that, and I don't expect you, although you always surprise me with the richness of how much data you do have, but the CEO of ServiceNow, Bill McDermott, was at the JP Morgan Investors Conference last week. And one of the things that he said was, I think he cited a survey from Fortune, which said that there was a huge percentage of CEOs out of the number that they talked to who said they were maintaining or accelerating their digital transformation initiatives, and that there were a handful who said, no, we're not. And I just got to scratch my head sometimes and wonder, what are those folks thinking that, when stuff does begin to kick in again, when business starts to get back to normal, if you're out of phase with your buyers in January, February, March, then you're really going to be out of whack with them, sometime this summer when things start to open up a little bit. I just wondered if you had as you described those priorities that business are having, keeping the lights on important, but I wonder if digital transformation now has become part of the lights on.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably a pretty good way to put it, Bob. Rather than bring up a number of different visuals or ideas to show that, what I can share is that we've had the opportunity to conduct a series of panels, series of one-on-one interviews with CIOs, probably around 20 or 25 over the course of the past few weeks since the pandemic's outbreak. I would say that the majority of them are, with the exception of major disruptions to their businesses or businesses that are being shut down for reasons because of COVID, I'd say the majority of them are holding their spend steady. So that means that, while there's certainly an impact overall, there's a counteractive weight, or a pendulum is swinging back the other way of their spend towards the cloud, spend on SaaS. I still think that it's fair to say that overall IT spending might be down this year just because of the general overall impact, but there is definitely an element of counteraction when it comes to people moving more intensely towards the digital platforms.
Yeah, Peter, that's a great insight. Thanks for that. Now, one other company that you had mentioned beforehand, and it really, when Microsoft's numbers came out a couple of weeks ago, it was, that booming quarter, and the CFO Amy Hood just said, we really did not experience any impact from COVID-19. Microsoft's security sector, you feel continues to do well, right?
Yeah, no, I think that is a area that maybe might be a little bit surprising for people to hear, that a company like Microsoft has successfully expanded their security platform to be attractive to CISOs and security officers at large enterprises around the world. And it's not just a play on bundling their other services, it's that they're actually displacing other third-party vendors like in email security, or they have a new SIM product in a product called Sentinel. And it just seems almost akin to what they did with Microsoft Teams or Power BI, where they launched and then just continued to improve their products to the point where people that are closely aligned with Microsoft would be silly not to evaluate them because of the bundling opportunity and the platform opportunity of just working that much more closely with Microsoft. I will say, just on a general qualitative feedback, is that maybe it's not today that Microsoft is truly displacing, say, a proof point for your email security, but 2-3 years from now, that's a very viable possibility based off the progress that they've been making as of late.
And Peter, along those lines, I think in addition to the factors that you've cited there regarding Microsoft, I think from 2.5 years ago, you started to hear Satya Nadella talk about for Microsoft's customers, their digital estate. He didn't talk about, this slice of it or this slice. He said, we're among the only companies that can address the entire digital estate, from the biggest part to the smallest. And as digital technology becomes embedded in everything, and cybersecurity becomes, end-to-end, fully ubiquitous, that could be, another one of those reasons why Microsoft is, the $1.3 trillion gorilla in the room.
Yeah, no, I think that as much as especially security officers at times might be hesitant to place risk in one particular vendor or one particular platform, the reality is that for many organizations, ease of access and ease of implementation just sometimes will trump the risk that's involved there. So especially as the products continue to improve, I think that will only continue to swing in Microsoft's favor as people just, eventually call it acquiescing to Microsoft's pressure to become more under their platform and continue to be the enterprise juggernaut that they already, have proven themselves today, but continue to accelerate that market cap.
Yeah, Peter, I think that's a good way to put it. And now we have a chance here to look ahead a little bit. Next week, we've got earnings coming out from Workday, from Salesforce, and you've got some pretty good insights on Salesforce. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Salesforce is one of the names when you talk about, I'm going to pull up my screen here with some of the when we talk about those conversations that we have with our survey respondents, and on an ongoing basis, we're just able to maybe take the temperature and gauge the sentiment of just how often they mention a company, or how often they mention a company positively. I would say Salesforce has emerged even more so during the COVID period as a top of mind name that gets brought up when we ask about SaaS, of benefiting from what is happening to the world. What I've brought up here is I'm going to introduce the Cloud Wars community to a new respondent cut. It is called the Giant Public and Private Enterprises of the World. What we've done here at ETR is isolated Global 2000 respondents, added in Forbes 225 privates, so the largest private organizations of the world, like your Cargills or your Ubers, those big enterprise wallets, and added in also federal government because of the wallets that they have capable in terms of enterprise spend. So basically, we utilize this cut as the most important respondents in our survey when we complete our survey. And you'll see here the net spending score. So again, that is the percentage of adoption plus percentage of increase, minusing out percentage decrease and percentage replace to gather an overall strength of future spending intentions. And I've highlighted Salesforce here, and you're seeing the delta year over year and also survey over survey, which is exhibiting, continued strength. So market share for Salesforce has also retained its basically leadership within the entire sector of enterprise applications. So, and in a certain part here, even accelerated versus January 2020 survey. So positive things in terms of the overall, let me get back up. Overall strength of spend, and then also maintaining the number of respondents in our survey relative to the other enterprise application respondents as well. They are also well aligned with, regardless of those that might be decreasing their spend on COVID or as a result of COVID. So I'll pull up here. Bob, you had asked and talked about earlier about enterprises that may be forced to decrease their spending as a result of COVID. And what we've done is isolate respondents to our survey that at the beginning of the survey, we asked them, what is going to be your overall IT budget impact? And what I've done is isolated all of those that have submitted a negative intention, and you could see the different options that they have here, whether it be as small as -1 to 5%, all the way down to greater than a -30% impact. And you'll see that Salesforce has actually strengthened its spending, overall spending intentions within that subset of people. So with those people that are spending negatively because of COVID or have had a negative IT budget impact, that their net score, their overall spending intentions are actually accelerating from January to April.
Fascinating, fascinating. Peter, what do you take from this? Something about, Salesforce, the customer company, and, Mark Benioff has really made it a point of, hammering home this thing that digital transformation, whatever industry, whatever type of company, it's centered around reimagining and delivering the whole engagement with customers. So that seems to be something that, with what we've seen over the last 10 weeks, 12 weeks, we've all had to become accustomed to doing commerce, buying things, looking for things, selling things in really different ways. And I'm wondering if you feel that one of the things that has given that strength here for Salesforce is that, are they one of those companies that's going to help equip businesses with the ability to do business in any way that the customer wants?
Yes, absolutely. And if you think about just licenses and the need of an IT executive to expand those licenses because of what is happening, typically, realistically within an organization, you might have 1 or 2 users that sit next to each other in the office and effectively share their insights or share their Salesforce licenses. Now I've been speaking to CIOs around the globe that have had to rapidly launch Salesforce licenses to the rest of their organization, basically to maintain visibility with their employees. So I think that one of the things that maybe at a higher level will come out of a work from home revolution is the need to track productivity and track engagement with employees. And Salesforce is one of the tools that does that best, right? I think just being, especially in a distributed organization, connectivity and being able to share information about what's vital to the sales organization or even beyond in the HR organization I think that that is going to continue to benefit a company like Salesforce. Now, will it completely counteract those that are forced to shut down entirely? Time will tell, and the earnings report will tell on that. But the feedback that we have from interviews with respondents that have maybe not had much of a change or are not shutting down entirely is that Salesforce is a priority for them, and not only a priority, but also a tool where they have advanced their spend and have advanced their licenses out of necessity or out of need.
So, Peter, great stuff there from ETR. Can I ask, in addition to the surveys and the data that you're showing here through the graphical representation, you've got quite a privileged seat in the one-on-one conversations you have with CEOs and other high-level decision makers. What have you seen or heard that really struck you from them over the past month or so since we talked?
Yeah, I would say, part of that would be the feedback in terms of them now in a more distributed workplace having to expand their licenses. I would also say that the platform offering, you and I did a full episode about Tableau and their the development or the strengthening of that relationship with Salesforce now is, I think, something that is very much coming to fruition and is also making them that much more of a valuable platform offering. You also have MuleSoft, their acquisition there, and the API integration offering as well. ExactTarget in internet marketing. All of these things put together are transforming Salesforce into a platform almost similar to what we were discussing with Microsoft and cybersecurity, right? So that's the holy grail of these dominating ecosystems within enterprise tech. I think Salesforce is effectively moving towards that. I think one other area that is of interest, and of course, there's a lot of buzz around it, would be the machine learning and AI opportunities that Salesforce has with Einstein, especially now with the integration of Tableau. The last data point that I'll share, but it's also fueled by a lot of the positive feedback that we have from interviews, is that when you cut to all respondents and just simply look at the highest percentage of respondents saying that they plan to adopt the technology, in our entire survey of 334 vendors, technologies, frameworks, Salesforce Einstein is number 2. And they're right beneath Snowflake, which is one of the hottest companies within data warehousing and completely disrupting that space, above names like Darktrace in cybersecurity, UiPath, Rubrik, SailPoint. These are some of the most forward-looking in terms of greenfield adoptions, hottest names within the private VC market as well as the public markets as well. Names that are going to materially impact the enterprise landscape, and Salesforce has a product that's number 2. So I just think that speaks a lot about their not only their current install base, but their opportunity that they have in terms of greenfield adoption as a result of their expanded platform offering.
Well, Peter, that perspective you just offered, I always thought it was bizarre in, women's professional tennis. They'd say, about one player, she's 21. She's, just about over the hill now. These 14-year-olds are the future. But, in the tech business, it's crazy. But Salesforce is 20 years old, and they're considered not legacy, but, not quite as more long in the tooth than some of these other folks. But I guess it's just, that sense at the top. And I thought it's interesting, right? Because a few weeks ago, up until a few weeks ago, they had the 2 CEOs. And now they've sort of flipped that. It's back with Mark Benioff being the CEO. And then we've got, now they've got more than one president. So it's interesting how Benioff on the fly at this very, very high growth rate with a huge company behind him, he continues to tinker with the operations of the company, the product mix of the company, that presentation of what's going forward, and really keeping his foot slammed down hard on the emerging technologies that allow something like Salesforce Einstein to be so visible, so credible, and to have this sort of cool factor out among enterprises looking at startup companies as you just described there. So it's really quite an achievement by Salesforce, and it's going to be fascinating to see what their numbers look like next week.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting to see. I'm most curious to see if they're able to counteract the just overall slowdown, right? And I think that that's the question that a lot of people are asking and still maybe analyzing with even some of the results that were revealed over the course of the past few weeks with the other enterprise behemoths. But from all indications in response to our survey, I would say Salesforce is very well positioned to continue to do well. Our organization does not make calls on the quarter. That's not our type of business. We're best in understanding the tectonic shifts or the year-over-year accelerations or decelerations in spend. But I would say Salesforce is very well positioned to continue to achieve those high growth rates that they have historically. But now even on a larger platform, so
Yeah.
on a larger install base. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see. And what I can maybe wrap up is that we're positive.
Okay. Can I ask Peter quick two other things?
Yep.
One is just looking back at some of the other big companies that released earnings around March 31st, anything from your survey results or your one-on-one conversations that you want to share?
Sure. I think that it might be beating a little bit of a dead horse, admittedly, but we have a saying around our office. There's three certainties in life: death, taxes, and good spending data on Microsoft. So I think that Microsoft is very, we've compared Microsoft to Salesforce over the course of this conversation and call Microsoft the father vampire of this, revolution of a platform-based enterprise, or leveraging a large install base and then expanding out in pervasion. I think that Microsoft is continuing to win. They're winning in Azure over AWS and Google. I think catching up to AWS. I think that Power BI continues to be a valuable tool in terms of people utilizing that potentially over a Tableau. I think Tableau has come back with now under Salesforce. People are accelerating back to it, but that doesn't mean that Power BI hasn't had its impact as well. And then Teams versus Slack. I think that that is something that our data picked up on very early on, and I think that that is something that will continue. Even our organization itself is practicing what we preach and moving towards Teams. And watch out Zoom, because their video capabilities are probably right behind it as well too, in terms of the collaboration effort. So I think that when you look at Zoom's valuation, there's a lot of downside opportunity there if Microsoft can better their video conferencing platform and get things more up and running on the Teams. So that'll be an interesting dynamic to see play out over time as well.
Oh, great. Thanks for that, Peter. My last question is, I have not had the opportunity to come physically to your office, but as I look over your left shoulder, there's something about that office. It seems familiar. What's going on there?
Unfortunately, we are not in a WeWork or a co-office sharing situation with the office. So unfortunately, Stanley Hudson is not my desk mate. But for today, he is, trying to bring a little bit of levity to the situation. But yeah, so
well done.
I appreciate comedy. We had Seinfeld last week. I almost decided to keep it in honor of Jerry Stiller and RIP his passing, but we moved on to the office this week. Well, I'm excited to reveal my my office setup next.
Perfect. Perfect. Peter, thank you as always. Your insights are great. What ETR is able to share is very, very helpful, helping everybody get a grip on who's hot now, who's emerging, what are some of the mega trends happening. So thanks as always for your insights.
Thanks so much, Bob. It's great to be here and great to see you again. And I appreciate all the work that you've been putting out as well.
Oh, Peter, that's great. Most of all, folks, thanks to you for being with us. We hope you continue to be safe, and I hope that we'll all start to see some of those 33 million Americans who have been pushed out of work by this pandemic start to get back into the market and helping to drive some of the economic engine that Peter Stubbe and his colleagues at ETR keep such good track of. Thanks for being with us, everybody. We look forward to seeing you next time here at Cloud Wars Live.